Migration of Palestinians, Part 1. By Walker von Krieg. A Jonsquill Ministries production. After the American Civil War, Mark Twain took advantage of the steamship to travel abroad. It was on a retired warship, the Quaker City. He enjoyed that faster means of crossing the oceans, with one of his destinations being what is now called the Middle East. It was he who gave us the picture of the land of Israel, or Palestine, as it existed in 1867. What follows is the description taken from his reports, as printed in his book that followed.
Stirring scenes occur in this valley no more. There is not a solitary village throughout its whole extent, not for 30 miles in either direction. There are 2 or 3 small clusters of Bedouin tents, but not a single permanent habitation. One may ride 10 miles hereabouts and not see 10 human beings. These unpeopled deserts, these rusty mounds of barrenness that never do shake the glare from their harsh outlines, and fade and faint into vague perspective. That melancholy ruin of Capernaum, this stupid village of Tiberias, slumbering under its 6 funeral plumes of palms. It was hard to realize that this silent plain had once trembled to the tramp of armed men. A desolate on is here that not even imagination can grace with the pomp of life and action. We reached Tabor safely. We never saw a human being on the whole route. Nazareth is forlorn. Jericho, the accursed, lies in a moldering ruin today, even as Joshua's miracle left it more than 3,000 years ago. Bethlehem and Bethany, in their poverty and their humiliation, have nothing about them now to remind one that they once knew high honor.
In Jaffa, before he took leave of the country, he summarized.
Of all the lands there are for dismal scenery, I think Palestine must be the prince. The hills are barren. The valleys are unsightly deserts fringed with a feeble vegetation that has an expression about it of being sorrowful and despondent. The Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee sleep in the midst of a vast stretch, wherein the eye rests upon no pleasant tint. It is hopeless, dreary, heartbroken land. Palestine sits in sackcloth and ashes, desolate and unlovely.
There are others who traveled to the land in the 19th century, who bore a similar report of Israel at that time. Perhaps I shall recount more about this in time to come, but it seems, from what I have studied, that though a diversity of peoples had come through the land over the centuries, until the Jews began to return, the land lay in waste, in both barren and swampy condition. When the spirit of return began to move the Haaretz, which means people of the land, job opportunities opened up and what would be biblically called strangers within began to appear, with a large portion coming out of Egypt. They came seeking work opportunities connected with the Jews reclaiming the land. Before the Balfour Declaration of 1917, which declared the government of Great Britain supported a national homeland for the Jews. Even before the First World Zionist Conference in 1897, Jews were making their way back to Israel. They bought the land from landlords, who often did not live in the land that would again become Israel. The stories of their sufferings and sacrifices are recorded in many books. They did not steal the land, they bought it, just as Abraham had bought the land, along with others, as recorded in biblical history. DNA studies show that many who are identified as Palestinians are genetically related to the Jews. That is because they are descendants of the Edomites and other ancient peoples whose lineage goes back to Abraham. But, because of their forefathers' sins, they have no God-given inheritance in the land. The behavior of these peoples is testimony to the fact that hate is built into their very being. The question now is, what do you do with the Palestinians? God willing, I shall address that question in a future editorial.